Okay, here you'll see I'm working on the one side of the onion bubble for the front of the ship, and what I've done is I've drilled out the windows and I'm installing fiber optics. As you can see, these protruding out, and that's on the front side, and on the inside this part's upside down. There you can see them. I'm going to be trimming those. I got to push them out some, and I'm going to be using epoxy to hold those in place, like I've done on this part. I have really discovered something about this resin, and that is it's clear. It's a very beautiful piece, but not even the paint, even using Bulldog, which is a paint adhesion promoter, I laid down, originally I was going to just lay down a piece of vinyl tape from 3M that's used in the automobile industry to establish my line for the windows, and I quickly discovered that tape, hardly even pressed on, pulled the primer right off this resin piece. You know, earlier in one of the other videos on this build, I had mentioned, I believe, that these parts are really beautiful, but you can't get anything to stick to them. The tape for masking and whatnot just, won't stick. So I went ahead and put Bulldog on them, the parts, primed them with a good quality primer, and let them set for, I don't know, you remember, 2 or 3 days, and before I started this work, and I'm absolutely amazed that the paint comes right off with just very low tack adhesive tape products, and it just takes the paint right off. So I decided enough of that. I was originally planning on putting the tape on, marking the place on the tape where the windows need to go, and then use my Dremel press to just come down and scour out a little bit of a round section for each window port, and not drill all the way through. And I did a couple of those on this piece, and I held it up to a light source, and it looked absolutely wonderful. And then I noticed that the paint was coming off, coming loose under the tape, and the whole tape fell off. So that quickly came to an end after I went ahead and put another piece back on, and the tape will not stick, and more paint came off. So I decided enough of this. I'm going to do what Steve Neal did in his blog on his Takinga build, one of the two, and that was he just drilled out the holes in the regular piece. He didn't have access at this time. I don't think this bulb piece was available from JT Graphics, and just put in fiber optics, which will reprime the piece, and I'll trim these back after painting is done, and trim them on the inside so they'll pick up the light from the light tape, which I'm going to use on the inside of the piece. On this one, I'm just starting to put the windows in terms of the fiber optics, and I'm using 1mm fiber optic pieces for the windows, and I'll slide them into the holes that I've drilled, and I will fix them with 5-minute epoxy on the inside, and that'll be that for the windows on this piece. Also, I need to point out that the bulb was not correct in terms of its alignment, and one of the things that you need to remember if you're working with resin pieces is even after you prime them, you can put them into warm water, which will soften them. And that's exactly what I did just about 10 minutes ago, actually, on this piece, and put both of the pieces back in warm water because the seams were not coming together very well at all on the piece. The top was real distorted, and the seams were not aligning properly. So I was having a lot of problem with this on the underside, so I was able to heat up the piece and put it back together again and cool it down while the two of them were together and the seams back the way it was. which isn't a really great seam. It's going to take some work, but at least I can work with that instead of it being totally off and totally distorted with one of them much lower than the other. So let me get this piece together and we'll move on to the next step. One of the other things I needed to do was to install the manifolds onto this part. It comes with the kit that has the grill in front of it that gets lit up red, which goes right here. These are parts that go on the top. This is the shuttle bay right here, and I've already installed the resin part for the back of the shuttle bay, which, because I'm using the resin part in conjunction with the resin manifolds, I had to remove the side pieces, which go on the left and right side of the shuttle bay back part, because the manifolds go there, and they have, unlike the kit part, they have the detail molded onto it. But to use the resin parts and still do the lighting, which I needed to get a fiber optic light up to this point right here, I had to go ahead and drill through. Because the resin part is solid, I've had to trench it and carefully warp the fiber, bend it, which is a multi-step process, and put it down in the trench and glue it in with 5-minute epoxy so that this part can go on to the shuttle bay part, and the fiber optic cable can go through this little trench section that I've got here on it, and on the kit part to get inside, which I've cut out another hole here for that purpose. So that's this one. I've got this one done, and the other one's still setting up for the other side, and should be done in a moment, just a minute or two, where I can pull it apart. This is the original kit part, and with the new shuttle bay part, and just like on the resin part, just like on the kit part, these left and right items, the same thing had to be removed on the resin part, because, as I said, those details are molded on to the back of the manifolds, where in the kit part they're not. So that's is done, and I've cut off the piece that goes on the front here. I've left a lip on this so that this piece still can lock in and will sit right there, and that will allow light to go through. And I have a piece of clear styrene that I have frosted with a Krylon frost product, which I'll put in there, which will help diffuse the red light. So let me go ahead and work on that and show you what that looks like. Now, what I've been working on here is the lighting in relation to the grill at the front. The manifolds are in, all the fiber optics are in. I still need to create the fiber optic pod to light all these up. But what I just did was take care of the grill right here. I have a piece of diffusion material temporarily taped in there, which I'll have to remove for painting of this piece before this piece gets installed in the upper hull. And I've put in a piece of red light tape, which I'll show you. It's back off over here, and this is what it looks like, nicely diffused, which I think I like that. I think that turned out pretty good. That's just 3 LEDs on that light tape, one section of it. It's the diffused, the double density diffused light tape, and in red, and that works out quite well, very well. So I still need to put in the warm white bulbs in the onion bulb for the front. I'm going to use light tape for that as well. Hopefully I'll get to that and you'll be able to see that as well. Thanks a lot.